Hi, this is RHM for RHM movie reviews. Sorry. Today I'm going to be reviewing movies I own that have to deal with history. First, it's going to be movies that have to deal with World War II. Basically, the first two are about the Holocaust. And they're two very different movies. The first one is Schindler's List. And it is basically about all those Jews that Oskar Schindler saved by having them work in his factory. And what it really is based on is a book called Schindler's Ark. And there's an amazing cast. I think this is a movie that introduced Ray Fiennes, Liam Neeson to American audiences. Because these are two British actors playing German characters. And I think they did a very good job. I wish that Liam Neeson had won his Oscar for Schindler's List, because I did look it up. He was nominated for Best Actor in Motion Picture. Next movie is called Anne Frank. I think it's supposed to be loosely based on the diary of Anne Frank. And yes, a little spoiler alert, it does talk about the fact that the family that lived with the Franks while they were hiding from the Germans, when they were caught, when they were captured by the German army, and they were sent to the camps, that family that the Franks lived with, all three members of that family died in the death camps. And it also showed that the only living member of the Frank family that survived the Holocaust was the father, Oscar Frank. And to me, I am surprised. I'm not surprised, because I've actually read the Diary of Anne Frank. And I think it was a very good movie. And both Schindler's List and Anne Frank both have Sir Ben Kingsley in the movie, in the movies. Because Anne Frank was only the second time Ben Kingsley was in a film about Jews during World War II, especially what was happening during the Holocaust. And of course, I think, like with most history films, these movies do have factual errors. I'm not sure what the factual errors are for Schindler's List, but I know the factual errors for Anne Frank, because there's no proof saying that Anne Frank and the boy Peter Van Peeble, I think. I'm not sure what the last name was. There's no actual proof that he had a crush on her before they were, I guess you could say, quarantined together. All right, the last book that takes place in World War II, I'm talking about, is Pearl Harbor. It is very good. Great cast. And this is the first movie Ben Affleck and his now ex-wife Jennifer Garner starred in together. It is the first movie. The first movie they started together in is Pearl Harbor, and not Daredevil. Daredevil was the first time they played on-screen love interests to each other. But Pearl Harbor is really good. You also have Cuba Gooding Jr., who played the first African American sailor to receive the Silver Star. Or sorry, not Silver Star, Silver Cross, which had always been awarded to white naval officers. Never a black naval officer. Always white. Next two movies I will talk about have to do with the first civil rights movement, which happened in the 1960s. The first one is Selma, which takes place in 1965, which is 100 years after the Emancipation Proclamation came to be into law. But that was, remember, Emancipation Proclamation was only to free the slaves. It wasn't to give them the right to vote. With Selma, it shows that they eventually got the right to vote. But Selma is about that march from Selma, Alabama, to the capital of Alabama, which is Montgomery. Now, it has a great cast, and Oprah Winfrey, if you're watching this, great job in playing a character that's not that well known to some people. You did a fantastic job in the movie, I know that. And I agree with you and the rest of the community, African American communities, thinking the movie should have been nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture, as well as the actor who plays Martin Luther King Jr. should have been nominated for Best Actor. Now, I'm just wondering, and if the King family wants to reach out to me and say something about the movie, I want to know if what they show in the movie is true, and the fact that, to me, it shows that the FBI might have had a big file on Martin Luther King Jr. Now, I don't know if this is true or not. It may be a factual error. I mean, if anybody's out there who knows the truth, please leave a comment below. The last movie I'll be talking about is probably one of the better. Oh, I forgot to say, Selma did win the Oscar for Best Original Song. Last movie I'm talking about is Hidden Figures. It is a great cast. Taraji P. Henson, Octavia Spencer, if I can remember the last one. Janelle Monáe played the three most important women in the 1960s to NASA. There's Taraji P. Henson played Mary Jackson, who at the time, she played Katherine Johnson, who was a mathematician, who is the reason the rocket that sent John Glenn up into outer space made it safely back. I do mean safely back to Earth. Because it was her numbers that made John Glenn feel safe. That everything was going to go perfect when he landed in the ocean near the Bahamas. Janelle Monáe played Mary Jackson, who became the first African American woman to become an engineer at NASA. I do mean not just the first African American woman to become an engineer at NASA, but the first African American to become an engineer at NASA. Also, the first woman to become an engineer at NASA. Because if you do watch the movie, you notice all the engineers are white men. Now, I don't think it really matters what country they were from, but they were white men. And Octavia Spencer plays Dorothy Vaughan very well. And she was the supervisor. She's the reason the IBM computers you see in the movie actually start working. And it's a great cast. You find out, I know there are factual errors for this movie. And the fact that where Katherine Johnson, it shows Katherine Johnson before she became Katherine Johnson, going from the building she was working in to the colored women's bathroom in another building, running back and forth, back and forth. The truth of the matter is that wasn't her in real life. That was really her friend, Mary Jackson, who did the back and forth. But it was an amazing cast. It was, and the fact that I found an interesting thing when I was checking out the trivia for this movie on imdb.com, or the app on my phone, or the app on my Kindle Fire. And that is the fact that Jim Parsons' character and Kirsten Dunst's character are not based on real people, but the fact that they are is what parts of their department thought. It was basically the white perspective of the certain areas at NASA. Sorry, not areas, certain departments at NASA in 1961. What these people thought of seeing African Americans in their department. And I still find the one scene in the movie very interesting, or I don't know if it's funny or not, I find it very interesting, is the fact that all Katherine Johnson, and this was before she became Johnson, I think it was Noble or something like that beforehand, but she held the sheet of paper from the stuff she was given to write up the report on. She looked up at it through, because she could see the redacted stuff. And if you ever look at some federal documents that are from the military or certain military outfits, redacted stuff is covered in black marker. There are only certain redacted things that she could actually see through the light. If she held through the paper, if she held it up to the light, she saw through the black marker. And the fact that they thought she was possibly a spy for the Russians, I thought was interesting. But when they asked her, when she said, I've never been to Russia, it was like, well, that's interesting that they automatically assumed, because she was smart enough to look through the paper to find out that this report that had already been previously written up was about the previous capsule that had failed in tests. And I just thought that was interesting. It's like they obviously really did think she was a Russian spy when she really wasn't. She's never been to Russia. She didn't have any Russian friends or anything. She was from America. She was an American, true to the sense. And her relationship with her, I would say it was her second husband, but with her last husband, I found how he courted her and how he proposed to her. I also found that very interesting. I thought it was very cool and sweet how he proposed to her in front of her girls and her mother. I thought that was so sweet, so very sweet. And that's RHM for RHM viewers. Next video I will be posting is about Disney princesses, because today is the 150th anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation going through all the way.